Well, we're live. Welcome to Mullin It Over. You get to see my beautiful face this time instead of just hearing my voice. We're going to start out. I want to talk about the Cavs first and foremost because obviously it's game one. So let's talk about game one, NBA Finals tonight from Oakland. A lot of people have differing opinions on this series. I think the prevailing thought right now is that the Warriors are the favorite. Going into game one, they're a 6.5-point favorite, I believe. Vegas has them at right now. So I don't know what a lot of Cavs fans feel about that, but I know we're the defending champs. We got a trophy to prove that we've slain this dragon before. So it kind of feels like, well, why are we getting this kind of disrespect? Well, it all starts what happened back in July of last year, obviously. Kevin Durant had a lot to do with that. When they went and signed Kevin Durant and, made the big three into a big four, that pushed the envelope a little bit, and it put the onus on the Cavs to try to double up or go even more all in if they wanted to repeat. It really put the pressure on LeBron because he's obviously chasing the ghost. He's trying to, build his legacy right now. And so it put a lot of pressure on the Cavs. But I feel like, with everything that's happened up to this point, we're kind of playing with house money. Like, the curse is broken. The Cavs don't really have a whole lot to worry about with winning the championship last year. And when all's said and done, the pressure's really on the Warriors, especially here in game one. They've got to hold ground. They got to come out firing. There's a lot of talk going around right now that the Warriors think they're going to sweep, or at best for the Cavs, 5 games. I think that's kind of offensive, to be honest, because last I remembered, we still got the best player in the NBA. So I'm just saying, as much as I want to give the Warriors as much respect as they deserve, this is a juggernaut team. This is a team that's obviously this is going to take a lot. This isn't going to be an easy task. But at the same time, I almost feel like I said, pressure's on the Warriors. So tonight, we're playing with house money. Got that championship. Obviously, LeBron has a lot riding on his legacy right now, but I feel like the pressure's off. The pressure's all on the Warriors, especially with them adding Kevin Durant. And if they come out and it's a close game tonight, I'm sorry, pressure's on. And I like the Cavs' chances. I really do. And this isn't just me being a Cavs fan. This is me telling it like it is. I really do. I like the Cavs' chances, and I have this whole season, even with Kevin Durant. Because if you remember correctly, he blew a 3-1 lead last year too, to the Warriors, to the team he couldn't beat. So he just decided to join up with them. So I'm not calling them soft, but I'll just say there were harder marshmallows in my cupboard. I'll just say that. So Cavs got a lot to prove tonight. Game one, it's going to be... There's a lot of pressure on the Cavs right now. But I feel like more pressure is on the Warriors. So we'll see how this one turns out. Another thing I want to talk about, there's a lot of storylines involved with these finals. Obviously, there's the Mike Brown storyline. Used to be the Cavs coach twice, been fired by the Cavs twice. So now he's coming back and possibly being the interim coach for tonight's game if Steve Kerr can't make it. So if this ends up happening and Mike Brown's on the sideline tonight, that's a different dynamic. That's a storyline for this series. Mentor versus the student, I guess. So we'll I'll continue with this Cavs topic. Obviously, I want to do another one of these every day. We'll do another one tomorrow after game one, and we'll talk about game one. I want to get some opinions and see how everybody feels about it. But first and foremost, I feel like with game one tonight, all the pressure's on the Warriors. They've got all the pressure, and the Cavs can come out and play loose tonight. I feel like we can take one. And if they take game 1, oh, man, then you're playing with house money. Then the pressure's all off. Then it's all on the Warriors. So let's move on. I want to talk a little bit about Kyrie. Kyrie got the cover of NBA 2K18. Shaq, a lot of confusion over this. Shaq was actually recently named the cover athlete, but he's for the Legend edition of the game. Same game, just different covers. So Kyrie is the official cover athlete for NBA 2K18, which is a big honor for Kyrie, for his brand. He's a huge international brand. I feel like he's, somebody that is an up-and-coming star, and he's just kind of waiting for LeBron to pass him the torch. So I feel like you saw a little bit of that in the last series with, Kyrie kind of taking over in Game 4 and then, showing himself in Game 5 in that closeout game. I feel like, this is something that it's a developing thing, but it's developing right in front of our eyes. Kyrie is a budding superstar, and while he might not be on the same level as LeBron James, he might not be the best player ever to play the game, you got a special talent here, Cavs fans, and we should appreciate it. Because I ain't never seen anybody cold-blooded like that. Dude's just ice water in his veins. So, all right, so that's Kyrie. Congratulations on the cover. I'll be picking up that game probably day 1. I know Greg Kinn won't want to play me because he don't like playing me in 2K, but, I don't like playing him in Madden, so it goes both ways. But anyways, so congratulations, Kyrie. 2K18 cover athlete. I want to talk a little bit about LeBron. I had somebody bring up a topic that they wanted me to cover on the show tonight, which was LeBron's stats. They want to talk about his win-loss record for the for the playoffs. Now, it's kind of a hard stat to track down, but I tracked down not necessarily win-loss record, but their win shares. It's a stat that basically determines how many wins an athlete is responsible for. And they use this in baseball a lot. It's not so much used in basketball a lot, but it's a very telling stat when you actually look at playoff win shares. When it's career, when you talk about career and all-encompassing for NBA players, LeBron is actually not only the top athlete when it comes to playoff leaders for win shares, it's not even close. I mean, he's 5 points ahead of Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan's sitting at 39.7, and LeBron James 44.8 as far as win shares. That's how many wins he's responsible for in the playoffs. It's just astounding to me. I mean, you see some of the other names on this list, and it just astounds me how far up he really is. Obviously sitting at 44.8, but you go down this list, Tim Duncan at number 3 with 37.8 on the win shares list. Kareem, 35.5. Wilt Chamberlain, 31.4. Shaq, 31.08. Kobe, sitting at number 8 with 28.26. So Eric Hall wanted to know a little bit about LeBron's win shares or his playoff win record or, that kind of thing. I think this is the most telling stat that I could find that kind of, I guess, shows what you were trying to look for here, which was he's astounding. The wins that he's responsible for as a basketball player, as an athlete, it's counted in this stat, and when it's shown on paper and how far and away above he is over everyone else, it's outstanding. I can't believe, looking at this stat, some of the players on this list. I mean, you go down the list, Bill Russell's on there, 27.7, and you consider that Bill Russell went to 9 straight championship games. So this is a guy that did a lot of playoff winning in his career. And here you have LeBron James sitting at the top of this list by a wide margin, beating Bill Russell by almost 20 points in win shares. So it's a telling stat, but it's something that I just thought we should talk about for a little bit, because Eric wanted to talk about wins losses, Michael versus LeBron, because everybody wants to make the comparison, even though there really is no comparison. They're not the same player. They don't even play the same, but when it comes down to it, everybody makes the same comparison because they wear the same number and because LeBron's chasing him. I mean, he's been to 7 straight finals. So, yeah, he deserves to be in this conversation. So, we'll talk. That's about it when it comes to LeBron. I mean, there's a lot you can talk about with this guy. I mean, you can go through and look at his playoff points per game. I mean, everybody wants to bring up, well, you know, Michael averaged 30 points a game in the playoffs. Well, LeBron's sitting pretty close, 28.3. LeBron just passed Michael Jordan on career playoff scoring list. So when you really break it down, people want to put them in the same conversation because LeBron's constantly breaking these records. He deserves to be in the conversation. So whether or not he's better than Michael is besides the point. The fact that we're having this conversation means that it's just astounding that he's gotten to this point in his career. Dude's 32 years old, played in the league for 14 years, and he's already in the conversation with Michael Jordan. So that's pretty outstanding. All right, so let's move on. Let's talk a little bit. I want to talk about this Browns trade. Browns made a trade today. They traded Demario Davis to the New York Jets, which ironically he played for 5 or 6 years. And they got back Calvin Pryor, a safety from Louisville, going into his 4th year in the NFL. And it hasn't really done a whole lot. He was on the second team all-defensive rookie team his first year in the NFL, but really hasn't done a whole lot the last couple of years. But the thing that I like about this signing is he's healthy. He stays healthy. He stays on the field. It's a signing that reminds me a lot of what the Patriots like to do. Take a guy who maybe he was a first-round pick, so he has some talent, but maybe he's not exactly the guy that the Jets envisioned him to be. That doesn't mean that he can't be a legitimate professional football player. It just means he didn't fit with the Jets. You see the Patriots do this a lot. They did it last year with the Barkevious Mingo trade when they traded a 6th-round pick to us for the right to get Barkevious Mingo and play him on special teams 6 times last year. It's something that I like, but I don't really see it as a big move. A lot of Browns fans are really getting excited about this one, but also remember this guy plays the same position as Jabril Peppers, who was just drafted to play strong safety. I've heard people say he could play, linebacker, he can play nickel, but I really don't want him messing around a whole lot. I'd much rather get him accustomed to playing strong safety. And unless Calvin Pryor has gotten a little faster in the last year, I don't see him playing center field. He can't really play free safety. So, and he's not really that tall. So he's going to play strong safety, and he's going to battle with Jabril Peppers for the strong safety job. And so if he beats out Jabril Peppers for that strong safety job, where does that leave Peppers? I mean, he can play. They're going to put him on the field. Obviously, he's talented. You're not going to not play the guy. But I believe this is kind of a telling trade. You're, 3 weeks after the draft? Almost a month after the draft now? Yeah, it's about a month since the draft. So since then, you've had OTAs, you've had organized team activities where these guys are coming in, they're getting a feel for the coaches are getting a feel for them, and for whatever reason, the Browns have felt that they need to make this trade. Not only, obviously, they didn't feel like they were getting a whole lot out of Demario Davis. Last year, he graded out as, I believe, 90-something against the run and 60th against the pass. He was just awful last year. 60th against the run, 90th against the pass in his position, respectively. Not exactly the kind of production that analytics favors. So you kind of expected this to happen. They were either going to trade him or they were going to cut him. They got something for him, which is nice, so they didn't have to just cut him. But at the same time, I don't feel like this is as big of a move as some Browns fans are making it out to be. So I would say take this with a grain of salt. Let's just wait and see how this turns out. I'd like it to turn out like Jamar Taylor did last year, that's for sure, because we basically traded a bag of balls for him, and he turned out to be a pretty good player. So I'd like to see that happen again, but I don't see it. He didn't really show too much over the last couple of years in New York, so we'll just have to wait and see. Another topic I wanted to talk about when it comes to the Browns is training camp. Talk about the recent quote from Hugh Jackson. Hugh was talking to reporters, and Hugh loves to use the word outstanding. Okay, that's one of his favorite words. It's a key word. You listen to his press conferences, and that's one of his key words that he likes to use a lot, is outstanding. They were talking to him about Brock Osweiler, and they asked him, what's your feel for him? What's your impression so far? And he said that he's not quite the player that everybody bills him to be, and he is impressed by the early signs that he's getting from Brock. Now, I mean, if I was Brock Osweiler, I'd be trying to ball out too after everybody basically took a shit on me for the last few years, or for the last year. You were a hot commodity last year for free agency, and the Houston Texans spent $72 million to secure your services. If I'm Brock Osweiler, after the offseason that I've had, I would come into camp with a little bit of determination as well. And I think that's what you're seeing with this. And I think, if Brock Osweiler is a starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, I'm just going to say this right now. If Brock Osweiler is a quarterback starting week 1 for the Cleveland Browns, you're not going to have very much success this year. I would say maybe 4 or 5 wins at most. Now, Cody Kessler, that's a different story. Now, those are a different 4 to 5 wins. I can see Cody reeling off maybe 5 or 6 wins at most. 6, 7 maybe. Cody has the benefit of being able to have the experience of playing in this offense. So he knows Hugh Jackson. He knows what he expects from a quarterback. So I think that's why you see him in the lead kind of for the quarterback right now. But if Cody ends up playing, he brings a different element to the offense. He's not going to stretch the field like Brock will, but he also is very accurate, and he makes good decisions. That's something that Brock doesn't do. So you got 2 different sides of the coin here, and I like the fact that Hugh Jackson is he's playing his cards right. He's saying all the right things, because obviously you don't want to take a shit on your quarterback, right? I mean, first day of OTAs or third day of OTAs, and you're going to talk good things. You want to make sure that you're talking about. Plus, who knows? What if a quarterback goes down in week 2 of training camp, and all of a sudden Brock Osweiler looks like a pretty enticing option for, say, some other team out there? I'm just saying, maybe he's not exactly an enticing option now, but let's hold off on this and let's push this down further down the road and see where this goes. And I like what Hugh Jackson's saying. I like some of the words that are coming out of his mouth in early training camp, early OTAs. I like it. So I want to see where this goes. But like I said, if you see Brock Osweiler as a starting quarterback for the Browns starting in week 1, it's not going to be good for the Browns this year. I just don't. I just can't see it. I watched a lot of footage from his games last year, and he doesn't impress me. Sorry. So, unless he turns it around, I don't see anything changing. Talk about the Browns a little bit more. Christian Kirksey just got signed to a 4-year deal, $38 million, $9.5 million per year. I think he earned this. I really do. I feel like, this is a guy that I think it was a 3rd-round pick a few years ago out of Iowa. He was a high-character guy when they drafted him. They thought that he could, potentially develop into a team captain, which is exactly what he's done. He's been a great voice in the locker room. High-character guy, very high integrity. And it's a guy that the Browns are trying to build their image just like this guy represents himself. So for them to give him this money, now a lot of people are saying that they overpaid for him. $9.5 million a year is a little expensive for, a guy that I'd say he's a little undersized, maybe not the quickest linebacker, but plays with tenacity and plays sideline to sideline and was third in the NFL in tackles last year, in the entire league in tackles. Now, obviously somebody's got to tackle somebody's got to end up with a tackle. Now, they didn't get too many tackles last year. They gave up so many points, but he kind of ended up as the shiniest turd in the punch bowl last year on the defense, I guess. But I feel like if they're going to build in the right direction, they have to retain talent. They have to retain their own talent. And in order to do that, because they are the Browns, they're going to have to overspend a little bit. I don't feel like this was overspending that much. I feel like, he's on the same level as Jamie Collins in this defense, and you're going to see that this year, especially with Greg Williams as the defensive coordinator. So it's going to be interesting to see how this works out long term. But I think for right now and the type of player that he's developing into, this was a no-brainer, and it's a good signing. And now they just got to work on getting Isaiah Crowell signed. So let's get that done. A couple other things I want to talk about. There's one thing that I want to get off the sports a little bit for just a minute here. There's a couple things that I wanted to talk about, some things that have been going on lately. I haven't been doing any podcasts lately because I had the computer went down for the last 3 weeks. It went down I had about 50 minutes into the first podcast, and then the computer crashed. So I ended up recording that first podcast from the radio station that I work at. So after I finished up, I did the SoundCloud thing. And a lot of people complained about having to download SoundCloud. So I just decided, well, this Facebook Live thing seems like it might be pretty cool. And we'll see how it works. I thought maybe I'd get a little bit more interaction than what I have so far, but maybe that's just because it's a new page. Hopefully next time you guys will interact a little bit more when you get on here. But what I was trying to do here is just trying to reach more people. I feel like everybody kind of complained about the SoundCloud thing and having to download the app, so I figured everybody's already got Facebook. You already got a Facebook app, so why not? So I'm going to try to do these every day, so if it gets annoying, unfollow, whatever, but I really would love for you to try to keep up with this and try to interact with me. I mean, let's make this like an interactive thing as opposed to just me getting on here and talking to myself, because I really would like to hear your opinions and hear what you want to hear me talk about, because I feel like, I have a little bit more than the everyday person to contribute to the conversation. So if you want to talk about something, I mean, by all means, bring your topics to the table and we'll talk about it. One thing a topic that I would want to talk about real quick here before I get off is I got into a little bit of a Facebook argument, if you will, with somebody last night over tipping etiquette. Now, this isn't sports related. I said I don't want to keep this just sports. Obviously, game one of the finals tonight, big, huge momentum and huge, excitement building into that, but I don't want to keep this just about sports. I'd like to keep it, free flowing and talk about just about anything. And one thing that I got into an argument with somebody last night about was tipping etiquette. I work at a bar, server, bartender, whatever you want to call it. I work for a lunch shift, so I'm not technically a bartender, but I'll make you a drink. I'm a mixologist, I guess. But when recently I follow a couple pages on Facebook. One's like the Angry Bartender, I believe. Another one's like the Condescending Bartender or something. They posted recently, there's a post that went viral on Facebook. A young server posted a receipt from a check. It's a $110 bill, and she got a $5 tip on the bill. Now, normally I don't share this stuff because I kind of think it's stupid to share this shit on Facebook. I think she's kind of dumb for even getting involved. Like, as a server, I know this stuff evens out. Like, Yeah, you're going to have a shit table every once in a while that's going to tip you really shitty, but you're also going to have a really nice table every once in a while that's going to tip you really well. As long as you treat those people well and you treat everybody the same, it all evens out. It really does. There's no reason to go on Facebook and whine about, this one table tipped me $5 on a $100 bill. It's not a big deal, really. But somebody got offended. Somebody said, well, I don't understand why, something about, well, if I go to a restaurant and I order a steak and somebody in front of me orders a burger and my meal is just a little bit more expensive than theirs, why should I have to tip more? Just because my bill was more doesn't mean I should have to tip more. See, I don't think you have to tip. You don't. And if you're trying to justify a 10% tip on a $110 bill, then maybe, just don't tip. Because trust me, there's people out there that are going to help even this out. So if you don't want to tip, if you really feel like you have to justify, well, why should I tip more because I got a more expensive meal, then don't tip. Just don't. If you don't get it, if you don't understand how this whole thing works, then just don't. Nobody's telling you have to tip. But, I don't know, it just got me really upset last night because this guy could not understand the fact that a steak is different from a burger. You're not going to get the same service with a steak that you will for a burger. Because a burger, I'm just bringing you out a plate with a burger and fries on it. I might get you a couple refills. Your napkins are at the table. Yeah, it's pretty simple. That's simple service. But a steak, if you go to a steak restaurant, a steak house that serves steak, you're most likely going to get a dinner bread. You're going to get a dinner salad. You're going to get, dressing with your salad. You're going to get a drink and possibly a water with your drink. You're going to get all the sides that come with. I mean, it's just, for me, it's like comparing, I don't even know. It doesn't make sense to try to make this comparison. To me, it just sounds like you're trying to be cheap. So, in reality, the guy was trying to justify his behaviors, which is fine. If you want to try to explain it to yourself and try to justify why you feel like you have to tip this way, then that's okay. Like I said, you don't have to tip at all. It's not expected. I mean, it's expected, but it's not required. You're not going to get chased down by the waiter on your way out of the restaurant if you just don't tip. But everybody around you thinks you're an asshole. Just so you know that. And if you're trying to justify a 10% tip, everybody around you pretty much thinks you're an asshole. Well, I paid $120 and that's all I had, so I only tipped her $5. Maybe you shouldn't have ordered so much food. That's just my opinion. If I had $120 in my pocket and I wanted to go out to eat, that's all I had, I would make sure that my bill didn't get at least $105, $110. So I had at least $10 to tip. I want to make sure I at least tip 10%. Now, I don't I usually tip, at least $10 on every bill that I have. If I go into a restaurant and I eat by myself, like yesterday, I went to Benchwarmers. Okay, sat down, had a meal, tipped $10 on our bill. Okay, but I also went into Madison Street today, sat down and ate lunch with a server that I work with on Fridays, ended up tipping him $10 on a $14 bill. So, and to be honest, I had to get up a few times to get my own drink. That doesn't bother me because it's a place I work. But I know that he was busy. I know he had other stuff to do, and I knew what his job entailed. So it didn't bother me. And I know that he had a rough day, and I was just trying to help him out. I know that circumstances are different. And I know that you can't just say it's a flat 10%, or it's a flat $10, or it's a flat whatever. But all I'm trying to prove here is if you want to tip, then you don't have then there's no reason to try to justify tipping less. Just tip what you feel like the service is worth. I don't know. People are trying to justify, well, if my bill is this much, I shouldn't have to. You really do. Like, you really should. You don't have to, but you should. That's kind of how this works. Like, the more you get, the more you're expected to tip. The more you spend at the restaurant, the more you're expected to tip. It's just how it works. So, that's pretty much it for today's show. It's been fun. It's been different. I want to try things a little different next time. I want to hopefully get some more interaction from people. Drop some comments. Send me a message. Find me on Twitter at Mullin It Over Podcast, or at Mullin It Over Pod is what it's called on Twitter. Send me an email, mullinitoverpodcast@gmail.com. I'm trying to get some interaction from people. I'm trying to get feedback. So let me know what you think. Thanks again. And till next time. Thanks.